Walls been building in your mind, but you'll find a way to...
Whoa, we got another episode. We are up to, what is this, 4? And on the date I'm recording, May the 4th be with you. Nerd alert. That's a carryover from my Retro Gamers podcast that I also host. Cheap plug. Thank you for downloading the hottest wrestling program and the newest wrestling podcast on the internet. That's right. Welcome to Pro Slam World Podcast with Larry Mohrmann. And I'm here to bring you all things professional wrestling. And this week, I'm a little embarrassed. Dare I say humbled. Because I made a grave error from last week's episode. I made what's called a faux pas. Basically, last week when I was running down the card for Backlash, I keep getting Payback and Backlash all mixed up. Payback, WWE Payback, Raw exclusive pay-per-view. I had mentioned how the House of Horrors match was for the WWE Championship. And much like Vince McMahon having to go on to ECW television the day after, stating that everything he said and everything we know about Chris Benoit wiped from your memory because basically it's never happened, and he apologized for having a whole 3-hour show based on or in dedication to Chris Benoit. I must apologize myself because of the ultimate faux pas that I made last week. It was not. The House of Horrors match was not for the WWE Championship. I could have sworn it was for the title. Apparently, it was just a kind of a blow-off to end the feud between Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton. And the match, mixed reviews, I think is putting it politely. The landscape of professional wrestling has definitely changed over the last 5 to 10 years, probably. And I'm not talking about the PG era, or now I guess we're in the reality era, they've been calling it. Not that. It's just I've always said this. And I don't mean it in a bad way. I just feel that people, and I'll include me as part of people, our what's the word I'm looking for? Attention span, yes. People's attention span is much shorter nowadays than it was in the past. If I can paraphrase a line from a wonderful, wonderful comedy that should have won all sorts of awards, Basketball. People's nowadays, their attention span can be measured in nanoseconds. And that is so true. Because think about it. Back in the 60s and 70s, let's go back even further. The 40s and 50s. I mean, you pretty much had a headlock for an hour, and people were on the edge of their seats. And as time went on, we got to the 70s and the 80s, had some more action, some more mat wrestling. 80s and 90s, some more mat wrestling, some more brawling. 90s and the 2000s, we got more brawling and more fighting. And then where we're back today is kind of going back to wrestling with high flying. And so with the shorter attention span, you're going to get, you have to do things, or wrestling has to do things to really keep the attention of the viewer, both in the live audience and at home watching on TV, which is why I think we're getting more of these, especially in the indies and Ring of Honor. Let's call out the match that put it on the map, really, with this new craze of high-flying spot fests. Will Ospreay versus Ricochet from New Japan. I think it was the Super J Cup? I think it was, if I remember correctly, about a year or two ago. I mean, that match was move for move, high flying, flips, turns, spots. If you want to call it a spot fest, you can if you want. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm personally not into spot fests or the high flying. I should stop calling it spot fest. I apologize. High flying. I'm more, even like with MMA and boxing and everything, I'm just more like with the heavyweights, just pound and ground or ground and pound. I'm not going to try and quote MMA. But I like the main eventers. I'm fine with an all-out brawl or mat wrestling. I'm good with that. Just the high flying, it's fun. It's great to watch, but for the entire match, not my cup of tea. But what I'm getting at is the House of Horrors. And basically what the House of Horrors is, to break it down, the match started in Bray Wyatt's House of Horror, which was nowhere near the arena. And the match had to end in the arena. So the match started like 3 matches before the main event, 3 or 4 matches before the end of the pay-per-view. And if you haven't seen it by now, so spoiler alert, if you haven't seen it by now, basically Randy Orton shows up, pulls up in a limo to the House of Horrors, which is kind of weird because they were in San Jose and it was pitch dark out for what would have been 5 or 6 o'clock at night. So Bray enters this dilapidated home, the House of Horrors. He walks in the front door. The lights are flickering. It's basically filmed like a movie, and this is what I'm going to get into in a moment. It was very movie-esque, which has been done in TNA, big time in TNA. The total nonstop deletion and the matches that the Hardys had during, when they're on the Hardy compound, that movie-esque style. So that's how the House of Horror was. Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton battled through the house. They did cuts. They put in some special effects and everything. And then Bray Wyatt gets the upper hand, knocks a refrigerator onto Randy Orton. He exits the House of Horrors, gets in the limo, and the limo drives off to San Jose and the arena. Leaving. And the match could win by pinfall, submission, or forfeit. So at that point, if Randy Orton can't answer the 10 count when Bray gets back to the ring, it's considered a forfeit. Now, a lot of people, I think, and a one Pro Slam World podcast listener put on the Pro Slam World page on Facebook, which, if you don't know about it, Pro Slam is on Facebook. Go check us out. The link will be below, but by all means, definitely, we want to get you there. So, but basically what I'm trying to say is he was not crazy about the match. Not a lot of people were. I think they felt that the House of Horror match was a little too much, maybe, in the production section. So, and then the match in the arena was short. Jinder Mahal come out. The Bollywood Boys came out, hit Orton in the back of the head with the title, and actually Bray Wyatt ended up winning the match. I think that this filming, this movie filming of matches is going to be the way to go. I don't have a problem with it when it's one match every now and again. It worked real well with the Hardys with total nonstop deletion. And I think it worked okay with the House of Horror. I'm not saying the match was phenomenal. It certainly was not a Hollywood backlot brawl. If you remember that, now that, if you want to look at, something along those lines of, let's call it the way it is. Clearly, the House of Horror portion of the match was pre-taped, clearly, because it was like so dark out at night. Plus, not only that, the House of Horror house itself is actually for sale, and you can pull it up on a real estate website, and the house is located in Missouri, I think it is. So it's nowhere near San Jose, or at least not in driving distance for like 30 minutes to an hour. But that's okay. The Hollywood Backlot Brawl, that was pre-taped. That's fine. But I think for special matches, I think it's new. Let's face facts. It's a new way of doing it, especially if you're not in the arena. If you're not in the arena, you have that freedom. You have that capability of taking some liberties. Let's go back to the halftime heat when Mankind fought The Rock for the WWE Championship. That match, it was an empty arena match, and that it wasn't filmed as elaborate as the House of Horror was, but it had its fair share of cuts. It's had its fair share of movie-like cinema. I mean, the ending of the match, when Mankind pinned The Rock, Mankind lowered the forklift onto The Rock, and I remember the cut that they took to point of view. The POV was from basically the top of the forks of the forklift. And, like, you see The Rock on the floor, and you see the camera and the forklift being lowered onto The Rock. So that cut, back then, that was, 99, right? Yeah, because 99 Royal Rumble. Yeah. So that was in 1999. And for 99, I think that was some pretty savvy filming, some pretty gutsy decisions on Vince on how to present that match. And now with the House of Horrors, I think you're going to see more of these cinematic type matches. If we get one or two a year, I'm fine with it. Don't do it at WrestleMania. Don't do it at SummerSlam. Don't do it at the Big Four. Do it at one of these smaller pay-per-views. Or if you want, do it on a Raw or a SmackDown Live. I think it's different enough to make the match different. I feel like a lot of people just didn't like the House of Horrors because of that cinematic quality. And like all new things, I think it just takes some time to getting used to. Go to YouTube, look up Total Nonstop Deletion, look up those, 2 or 3 matches that were filmed at the Hardy compound. So, I'll admit it took a couple viewings to get used to it, to understand what they were going for. But in the end, it worked. And in the end, we all watched. And in the end, the feud ended. Bray Wyatt, came out on top against Orton. Now Orton's going to Backlash to take on Jinder Mahal, who I still think is a wonderful pick for a number one contender. New blood. That's what I said. It's all about new blood. So let me hear your thoughts about the House of Horrors match, or any of those types of matches, like the Hollywood Backlot Brawl, or a Boiler Room Brawl. These matches that start outside somewhere and have to make their way to the ring, or even like a Buried Alive match where it starts in the ring and has to go somewhere else. Let me get your thoughts on these type of special matches that really take away from the tradition of the squared circle. So let me know what you are thinking about. And that's facebook.com/PSW Wrestling. That is the Pro Slam World website, Facebook account, I should say. And, of course, you can follow Pro Slam World on YouTube. So check that out as well, because we're going to be posting a lot more videos on YouTube. We are going to be the podcasts end up on YouTube as well. So if you don't have a podcast app, then I don't know how you're listening to us, but that's okay. But you can listen to it on YouTube, and that's YouTube. Look up Pro Slam World, all one word. Easy for me to say. So earlier today, thanks to Facebook, you know how Facebook will give you like the, hey, 3 years ago this happened, 5 years ago, you were with the love of your life, and then you're like, oh, wait a minute, not anymore. For me, it was a pop-up of a video I put up, which actually it was like Facebook said I posted it 4 years ago, but the video itself is actually from 2005. Madison Square Garden, Monday Night Raw, and the return of Hulk Hogan to the WWE. Now, he'd gone into the Hall of Fame earlier that year, and it was Daivari and Muhammad Hassan beating up Shawn Michaels. And the rumor was Hogan was there. Shawn Michaels asked for Hogan as his tag team partner because he was going to get... Basically, it was ultimately setting up for SummerSlam that year, Hogan versus Shawn Michaels, which was a very good match. SummerSlam 05. Hulk Hogan, Shawn Michaels. But this was leading into what ultimately would have been Daivari and Muhammad Hassan versus Shawn Michaels and Hulk Hogan in a tag match. So Hogan came back for Hall of Fame that year, came back to WrestleMania 21 that year, but he hadn't been back to the Garden in a long time. So I was there, had my camera out, which probably had like a 2 megapixel camera on it. So the quality compared to today is wickedly horrible. You can hear me on the video, and I'll put it on Pro Slam World. You can hear me. Wait for it. And then wham. I screamed like a 12-year-old girl opening up a brand new dolly set. I lost my crap that day. You can definitely hear it. That is all me. If you listen to that video, that is me. That was probably... I will put that in my top 5 crowd reactions. Dare I say top 3 self-pops that I did at a wrestling show. Because that was the first time I saw Hogan at the Garden in a long time. I mean, probably since before, had to be mid-90s, maybe even early 90s. Way before he went to WCW. And I even, I had that same reaction, that same pop at WrestleMania 30. When Hogan finally returned to where he belonged, WrestleMania. I remember me and my dad have gone to the last, 10 of the last 12. No. Hold on, I got to do some math. 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 32. 9 of the last 11 WrestleManias we've gone to. Me and my dad. We're just touring the country, having a good time. We plan on being back in New Orleans next year, so be on the lookout for Pro Slam World podcast from New Orleans. Hopefully, fingers crossed. But definitely top 3 pops for me was Hogan returning to the Garden. Probably another one. Well, Hogan. No, that wouldn't be my top 3. Hogan returning at Mania. It was a big one, but I wouldn't say my top 3. Boy. You know what? I'm going to do that for next week. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to think of my top 3 mark-out moments. And let me know some of your mark-out moments at the Pro Slam World Facebook page, PSW Wrestling, on Facebook. But, it's fun to... some of these crowd reactions, I mean, the crowd gets into it. I mean, I'll never forget when The Undertaker's streak was broken. You can hear a pin drop in the Mercedes-Benz Superdome. And if you go back and watch that match, WrestleMania 30, Undertaker versus Brock Lesnar, after the bell rings, ref counts 3, you hear this grumbling. Because legitimately, I think a lot of us were confused. We didn't know what happened because some of us just, where we were, we couldn't see, when they were on the mat, really didn't know what was happening. And then you hear just kind of grumble, grumble, grumble. Oh, you hear that on the TV. When you hear that, that's when it sunk into everyone that this is legit. Undertaker just lost and the streak ended because that's when they put the 21-1 on the video monitors in the Superdome. That is a moment I will never forget. WrestleMania 10, when Bret Hart won the WWE Championship from Yokozuna. I was definitely marking out back then in 94. I'll never forget that. Crowd reactions for it was back at, where was it? Ring of Honor. Final battle, was it? Or Manhattan Mayhem 6. Had to have been Final Battle because it was a triple threat for the TV title. Marty Scurll, Will Ospreay, and not Super Dragon. Dragon Lee? I am botching that name. What is that guy's name? Hey, listen, I'm getting old, so the memory's starting to go on me. Forgive me. Yes, Dragon Lee. That's right. I apologize. Marty Scurll, Will Ospreay and Dragon Lee. That was a triple threat match that everyone was on their seats for. Fast forward, we're going to stick with Ring of Honor. Fast forward to March, Manhattan Mayhem 6, when the Hardys made their in-ring debut and eventually won the ROH tag titles that night. Backtrack to Final Battle. I'm going out of order. When Matt Hardy appeared on the video screen. That was another huge pop at the Hammerstein Ballroom. Ring of Honor, Hammerstein Ballroom, they go hand in hand. And the crowd, both those nights, and I'm going to be back there in 1 week from when this podcast drops for War of the Worlds pay-per-view. I will be there at the Hammerstein Ballroom, and I know the crowd again will be hot for that pay-per-view. And being in a lively crowd, I mean, I don't care how bad the match is. If the crowd's red hot, so are you, and you're enjoying the night. And in fact, War of the Worlds, I think we're going to start to get ready to wrap this up. In fact, let's talk about the next pay-per-view for Ring of Honor Wrestling. And don't forget, Ring of Honor War of the Worlds will be live on pay-per-view Friday night, May 12th at 9 p.m., emanating from the Hammerstein Ballroom in New York City. Here we go. Here's the card. The heavy metal rebel, Frankie Kazarian, will take on the Bullet Club's Hangman Page. And remember, Kazarian was a member of the Bullet Club just for a short period of time, kind of infiltrated, got his way in. He ended up helping Christopher Daniels win the ROH World Championship. So you know Hangman Page has a lot of score to settle with Frankie Kazarian. In a non-title triple threat tag team match, it will be Search and Destroy. Now that's Jonathan Gresham and Chris Sabin with Alex Shelley in their corner, taking on Los oh man, how am I going to pronounce this? Los Ingobernales de Japón. Los Ingobernales de Japón, which is Evil and Sonata. They're representing New Japan Pro Wrestling. And the two teams there will take on the reigning IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team Champions, War Machine. In a one-on-one match, and I think is going to be a tremendous one-on-one match, Jay White goes up against Will Ospreay. Hiroshi Tanahashi and Adam Cole will meet for the very first time live at the Hammerstein Ballroom in the heart of Manhattan. Is it the heart of Manhattan? I'm calling it the heart of Manhattan. It's across the street from the Garden. Close enough. Title matches for Ring of Honor. The ROH World Six-Man Tag Team Championship will be on the line when Chaos, that's Hiroki Goto and Roppongi Vice, will go up against the reigning and defending ROH World Six-Man Tag Team Champions, Bully Ray and the Briscoes. The ROH World Tag Team titles are on the line when the Young Bucks, Matt and Nick Jackson, the hottest tag team going today. Let me rephrase that. They are the best professional wrestling tag teams on the planet today. The Young Bucks. They will defend the ROH tag team titles against Los Ingobernales de Japón, which they will be represented by Ibushi and the IWGP Intercontinental Champion Tetsuya Naito. The ROH World Television Championship will be on the line when the villain Marty Scurll will take on Reborn Matt Sydal, who's kind of interesting because Sydal was just on Impact Wrestling. So curious if there's going to be a working relationship between ROH and Impact Wrestling. I guess that is we'll have to wait and see on that one. And in a triple threat match for the Ring of Honor World Championship, it will be the ROH World Champion, Almighty Christopher Daniels, taking on Jay Lethal and the American Nightmare, Cody. Cody and Jay Lethal have had a tremendous feud in Ring of Honor since Cody debuted and took on and turned on Jay Lethal at Final Battle. Cody came in as a babyface, but man, did he leave as a heel. And of course, he is a member of the Bullet Club. Now, also keep in mind, this is going to be night 3 of a 4-night event for War of the Worlds, their tour, ROH's tour. Ring of Honor will be doing television nights 1, 2, and 4. Night 4 will be coming from the 2300 Arena, formerly known as the ECW Arena. Night 3, New York City, Hammerstein Ballroom, Ring of Honor. So, titles will be defended before New York City. So, these champions, just like any card, is subject to change. In fact, I think the night before in Dearborn, I think it's the night before, Christopher Daniels defends against Matt Tavern. knowing Ring of Honor, you never know. Matt Tavern may end up walking into New York City as the ROH World Champion. So keep an eye out at ROHWrestling.com. Hopefully you're going to be at the Hammerstein Ballroom come Friday night, May 12th. And we got some other shows coming up. Evolve's got some shows coming up. House of Glory Wrestling, I saw, has some events coming up the end of May and in June. In fact, I believe I just saw Booker T is going to be at a House of Glory show, so that's pretty cool. We have to get tickets to that one. WWE shows, they're pretty much laying low until the summertime. Now, when I say lay low, I mean in the New York City area. I live on Long Island. Of course, WWE and all professional wrestling is all over the country, all over the world. Check it out. I don't care where they are. They can be in the biggest arena where you are. They can be in a VFW hall where you are. You never know who you're going to see. You never know who you're going to see for the first time. You never know what future Hall of Famer may be debuting their very first match right then and there at an indie show. So never bypass an indie show. If you want to see some wrestling, go out, buy yourself a ticket, support independent wrestling, because if it's not for them, you're really not going to get high-quality talent to make their way to WWE. And that's the truth. We need to support independent wrestling. We need to support these groups out there. Now, I'm on the East Coast. I got HOG, I got NYWC, I got Evolve, I got FIP, FTW, Shimmer, Shine. They do a lot on the East Coast. Over on the West Coast, I know PG Pro Wrestling Gorilla, PWG, is huge out in LA. Huge out in LA. If you're out there in California, if you're in the Los Angeles area, check out PWG. Ring of Honor. Support Impact Wrestling. We don't want to see it go under. Yeah, their storylines may be a little tough, but we don't want to see them go under. Lucha Underground. I would love to go to a Lucha Underground show. I don't think they tour. You want to talk... You know what? Let's do that. You want to talk about like television production value? Lucha Underground. They got it down pat. They're doing seasons. They're on Netflix now. The first two seasons? Definitely the first season is on Netflix. So, as much as I will always carry the flag for WWE, but there is a lot of other wrestling out there. And New Japan will actually be debuting in the United States, out in California, in Los Angeles. If you're out there, it's I believe it's in July, early July. I mean, you can check out New Japan's website, but if you have an opportunity to go see them, I would love to see them live. I won't have the opportunity, but maybe one day they'll head out to the East Coast, or maybe I'll be able to fly out to the West Coast to check them out. New Japan has a working partnership with Ring of Honor, so I've seen a lot of the New Japan guys in ROH. I saw Shinsuke Nakamura before he went to WWE. I saw him at a couple of Ring of Honor shows. Tremendous. These Japanese wrestlers, absolutely phenomenal. But yeah, go check out indie wrestling. Go back, check out the House of Horrors match. Give it another shot. Sometimes with TV shows and movies, you have to watch it a couple times to really get it down pat, to understand what they're trying to say. And hopefully, I'll see you next week at the Hammerstein Ballroom. If you see me, if you recognize me, if you know me, come say hi. I'll be there. I don't know what time I'm getting there, but I got to get there soon enough for the pay-per-view itself. So with that being said, folks, thank you for downloading another episode of the Pro Slam World Podcast. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook. Don't forget to check us out on YouTube. And you can follow me pretty much everywhere at Mohr365, MOHR365. YouTube, Pro Slam World. Facebook, PSW Wrestling. And with that, as always, I will be back next week. Hopefully you'll be back too. And enjoy everything that is pro wrestling. Check you guys next time.
See